Greetings, my name is Mark Pinkham. I'm the director of the Order and Mystery School of the Seven Rays, and I'll be your host on this presentation on the people of the Peacock Angel, the Yezidis, the Hindus, and the Hopis. We in the Order of and Mystery School of the Seven Rays are dedicated to bringing you complete and easy to understand video presentations such as this one that, as accurately as possible, reveals the true history of the human race on Earth, much or most of which has been hidden or lost or destroyed. If you'd like to be alerted to any new videos we produce, please click on the subscribe button below and ring the bell. Okay, so I'm going to start this presentation with some experiences that I had through which I initially connected with the Peacock Angel and the Yezidis and the people of the Peacock Angel. And my relationship with the Yezidis and the Peacock Angel really began back in 1987, which was actually a few years before I was even aware that the Yezidis existed. In 1987 was when I first came to Sedona, Arizona. Sedona is famous for its huge vortexes of powerful energy that can open people up to deep meditation and experiences of other dimensions. After arriving and asking around town, I decided to visit Sedona's biggest vortex first. It's a canyon called Boynton Canyon. It's about 2 miles in length. So I got there and I walked about a mile into the canyon until I saw a ledge jutting out from the side of it, and decided to climb up to that ledge in order to get a kind of a bird's eye view of the entire canyon. Once there, I first meditated for a few minutes and then opened my eyes. Directly across from me, I saw what appeared to be gigantic pillars that definitely did not seem to have been formed by nature. Then as I looked around the canyon, I found many other red rock formations that also did not look like they were naturally formed. They appeared to have been carved. Here are some of the photos of what I saw. As you can see, there are many heads and faces that do indeed appear to have been carved. Then I began to scan the canyon floor and I spotted what appeared to be temples carved from the natural red rock and had symbols on them. They looked a bit like the temples I had seen in India when I lived there in my 20s in ashrams. I also saw statues among the temples that also appeared similar to those that I'd seen in India, such as the woman carrying pots in the picture. Eventually, I decided to leave the ledge and venture to the canyon floor to get a better look at these temples. But when, after reaching the canyon floor, I would spot a temple in the distance and walk towards it, parts of it would slowly start to dissolve as the closer I got to it. And then when I finally reached it, it had the appearance of the common red rock formations that everyone sees daily in Sedona. So I came to realize that on the ledge, I had been seeing these temples in their perfect condition and how they still are on other dimensions, but not on the physical plane. Sometime later, I would find that Sedona has been completely covered with water numerous times in its past. The last time being the flood that covered the entire planet around 10,000 BC. Thus, the temples had indeed been worn away through water erosion. When I finally began walking out of the canyon that day, I decided I would look around Sedona for other red rock formations that had a kind of distinctive shape to them. On my way out of the canyon, I encountered the perfectly contoured pillar-like red rocks near the entrance of the canyon that you see in the slide. They also appeared very Hindu in shape and similar to the design of some temples I had seen in India. During the remainder of my time in Sedona, I found a red rock formation that looked very much like some of the elephant statues I'd seen in India. In another part of Sedona, known as Palatki, I even found a pictograph of what appears to be the Hindu Om symbol that is dated back many, many thousands of years. One thing I was to find out from speaking to the people of Sedona about what I was seeing, people said that according to what they had heard, Sedona is an area that was in ancient times settled by colonists from the Pacific continent of Mu or Lemuria. Later, after returning home, I studied some of the books I had written by James Churchward about Mu that contained information he claimed to have found on a stone tablet in a temple in Kanchipuram, India. The tablet had been created by a people called the Nakals, who had left Mu and traveled both east and west to India and the American Southwest. So this would kind of explain why I was seeing temples and statues that looked the same in both places. Apparently, they were all influenced and or constructed by the migrating Nakals. Through some other research I did, I also discovered that India does indeed have a history of colonists from Mu. Many of them arrived from Lemuria when the continent was connected to South India. Now, in the history of the Hindus and Tamils, Mu is referred to as Kamari Nadu or Kamari Kandam. Now, during the coming years, I took many journeys to Sedona. During one visit, I learned a legend of the Hopis, the indigenous tribe who lived near Sedona, that maintains that the ancestors of the Hopis arrived in North America from Mu. They arrived with some beings from other star systems that they called the Kachinas. When they arrived in the Americas, they undertook migrations around the Western Hemisphere and found many areas that had been previously colonized and had people living in them. One place they visited was called Pleiades, the Red Place, that had been built and lived in by some other Kachinas. The Hopis lived in Pleiades among these Kachinas for some time and learned many of the mysteries of the universe and human existence from their teachers. Some of the ceremonial dances that the Hopis perform on the reservation today were actually learned during that time they were in Pleiades. One of the Kachinas that resided in Pleiades is the Hopis' current patron and guide. He's the leader of all the Kachinas, and his name is Masao, and he serves as the king of the world. When I heard the legend of Pleiades, I definitely knew I was onto something and that I had truly discovered the ancient history of Sedona, and this was going to help me to understand these temples that I had been seeing for years. And learning this history of Sedona actually gave me a foundation and set the stage for the next few experiences I would have that involved the Yezidis and the Peacock angel. The first such experience occurred high in the Andes. During a shamanic ritual there, I was transported in a dimension like the one I experienced in the canyon in Sedona, except in this dimension, everything turned into peacocks. All the bushes and trees and vegetation that was around me when I started the ceremony, all transformed into small and large peacocks. And even the mountains became towering, gigantic peacocks. Now, having been a devotee of the Hindus' peacock riding Murugan, I immediately associated the peacocks with him, but I was still not sure if I was right about this association or even what the dimension was that I was visiting. When I arrived back home, I checked the internet for information about where I had gone, what dimension I'd gone during the Andean ceremony. Was there any tribe, or was there any civilization or tradition that could give me information about where I went? Unfortunately, I could find no help until I came across the Yezidis and their deity, the Peacock Angel. I then got in touch with a fakir who was living in Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska. He was a priest of the Peacock Angel, and I spent some time with him. He told me my experience. He helped me to understand my experience by sharing with me an episode of Yezidi history that really explained what I had experienced in the Andes. This fakir, who's named Kawal Hassan, you can see him in the image, he told me the legend of when the Peacock Angel first came to Earth. He said that the Peacock Angel was the greatest of angels, who was originally sent to Earth to give it life and to give it color. So he arrived in the form of a gigantic peacock with all the 7 colors. He landed in Leilish, which today is the Yezidis' most sacred place, and then he spread his peacock feathers completely around the world. Now, these feathers were etheric. When they crystallized and became physical, they became all the colorful vegetation that then covered the earth. So at that time, the Peacock Angel became the Green Man, who was a deity of the very first of all the religions, nature religion. Now, the etheric feathers of the Peacock Angel still exist, but they're on a higher dimension than the physical plane. Now, this is the true dimension of the Peacock Angel, and it's where I went during my shamanic ceremony in the Andes. After returning home from Nebraska, I decided I would try to find scientific evidence for Kawal Hassan's story of the Peacock Angel's arrival on Earth. I discovered that there was indeed a time in the history of Earth that could correspond to the event he told me about. It occurred about 6 to 7 million years ago when the planet suddenly became covered with grass and flowers. At that time, the entire planet became the Garden of Eden. It was at this time, according to the legends of the Yezidis, that the Peacock Angel helped in the creation of the first humans. He decided to make the very first humans his special people. So he instructed Adam to deposit his seed in a jar. After 9 months, a boy emerged from it called Shahid bin Jer, meaning son of Jar, who later married a Hori, a female spirit from paradise, and their offspring were the Yezidis, who became the very special people of the Peacock Angel. The other 72 tribes that were created in India were descended or created and descended from the union of Adam and Eve. In the Garden of Eden, the Peacock Angel taught all the tribes the mysteries of human existence and how to worship and serve the highest God, the Supreme Being. He then told them to travel to their appointed destinations around the globe, and when they arrived, to continue to observe the wisdom and traditions that he had instructed them in. So they set off, and when they settled, they created civilizations and continued the rites taught them by the Peacock Angel. But over thousands of years, the name and form of the Peacock Angel within these tribes changed, even though his legend remained the same among them. Whatever form he was transformed into, he was still known as the savior of humanity who taught the path to God and became the first king of the world. When the Yezidis heard that I had traveled throughout the earth and was very versed in the legends and histories of many of the world's people, they asked me to find out who and what the Peacock Angel had turned into within the 72 tribes. They knew that he had assumed 1,001 forms, but they did not know what many of them were. What I next discovered is that most of the ancient civilizations did indeed have a figure in their past records whose titles and history were the same as the Peacock Angel, although their names and forms were different than his. When I later returned to the Yezidis with my discoveries, they agreed that I had indeed discovered many of the historical figures of the Peacock Angel that transformed into, and they had already intuitive that these figures were the Peacock Angel. And here they are on the screen. This is what the Peacock Angel morphed into in other cultures. You have at the top left, you have Sanakamra Modigan, the peacock riding son of Shiva and Shakti, the king, the prince king of the world, and the teacher of the Gnostic alchemical path that leads to enlightenment. Enki is to the right, and he was the creator of humanity, the serpent on the tree, and the founder of the Gnostic alchemical path in Sumeria. And then you have Osiris, the green man, who taught his people the path to God, and then completely encircled the world as its king. To the right of that is Al-Qadir of the Muslim Sufis, and he is the green man of their tradition. And then you have Dionysus, who was king of the world of the Greeks and founder of their mysteries. You have, to the right of him, you have Archangel Michael. You can see his wings are very much like peacock wings. And he was the leader of the 7 archangels, just as the Peacock Angel is or was. And his form on earth was King Melchizedek. And then to the right of Melchizedek, you have Masao, Lord of the world. Now, during one of my visits to the Vortex Canyon in Sedona, I discovered a trail that led off from the main trail that I normally hiked, and that trail then wound up a wall of the canyon. When I'd finished climbing that trail and reached its end, I looked in front of me and I saw temples arranged in a half circle with a huge formation in the center, just as you see on the screen. The center formation looked to me like a throne, and the temples that flanked it created a scene that looked like the court of a king. This made sense to me because I knew about Polyquapi and I knew about Masao, so I surmised that the court was probably that of the Hopis and Masao. And the next time I visited the court, all the vegetation around it was transformed into peacocks, like I had seen in the Andes, and many of the temples themselves had images of peacocks carved into them. Thus, I decided that the throne must be that of the Peacock Angel. And then I found that his legend was really pretty much identical to that of Masao. And then the time after that I visited the court, I saw the temples assume the shape of animals. And at that time, I knew that it was the court of the Lord of Nature and his role as the king of the world. So ultimately, I realized that the court of the king, or the court of the universal king, is the court of the Peacock Angel, Masao, Osiris, Dionysus, and all his different forms. And I let the Yezidis know my discovery, and then I took a group of them there, or I've been taking a number of Yezidis there. This was the first group I took in 2012. And they arrived at the court and looked out, and they definitely agreed and acknowledged that this was indeed the court of their king. And then in 2012, I brought the Hopis, Yezidis, and Hindus together, because by that time I was considering them the people of the Peacock Angel. And after listening to each other give lectures, the Hopis, Yezidis, and Hindus got together and compared notes, and they said, wow, I can't believe how close your legends and rites are to ours. And I can't believe how close your Murugan is to our Masao and our Peacock Angel is to your Murugan. So ultimately they decided that they were interrelated and possibly came from one ancient tradition. Now I'm going to talk about the comparison of culture between the Yezidis and Hindus to show you truly that these are interconnected people and possibly one tribe in ancient times. Now, one thing that the Yezidis observed, like the Hindus, is the blessing between the eyes and the third eye. Here you have the chief priest known as the Baba Sheikh, who's blessing a girl by touching her at the third eye. But the most common or the most obvious connection, shall I say, between the Yezidis and Hindus are their identical ceremonial lamps that have a peacock surmounting them at the very top. And to the left is the peacock lamp of the Yezidis known as the Shanjak, and to the right is the peacock lamp of the Hindus called the Ariti lamp. Now in these images, Peacock Angel is on the left and Murugan is on the right. Like many of his images, it appears that the peacock plumes behind Murugan are attached to his body, that they're emanating from his body, which is interesting because a boy with peacock feathers growing out of him has also been a vision of some of the Yezidis. And so this has been one way that the Peacock Angel has manifested with his people. Esoterically, both the Peacock Angel and Murugan are associated with the blue ray. This is the first of the 7 rays and the one that the other 6 rays emanate and descend from. The 7 rays are indicated by the 7 colors of the Peacock Angel, as well as the 7 feathers that you can see behind his blue body. The 7 rays of Murugan are denoted by his 7 heads, one of which is hidden and associated with the invisible spirit Shiva, his father. These 7 rays are often manifest also as the 7 angels that the Peacock Angel is the leader of, and the 7 Kumaras that Murugan or Sanat Kumara is the leader and synthesis of. Both Murugan and the Peacock Angel are associated with the Pleiades. In his 6-headed form, Murugan is known as Kartikeya, a name that denotes son of the Pleiades. The celestial court of the Peacock Angel is also the Pleiades, and the Pleiades is directly overhead during the Yezidis Autumn Festival, and all these lights you can see in candles in the image on your screen is taken during the Autumn Festival when the Pleiades in the middle of the night was directly overhead. So they say this is the time for the festival because the court of the Peacock Angel is right above. And both the Peacock Angel and Murugan are both associated with snakes, and both can manifest as snakes. And here you have the doorway leading into one of the temples in Lalish, the top photo there, with a black snake, symbol of the Peacock Angel. And then below it, you have a Shiva lingam that's wrapped up by a snake, the symbol of Murugan Sanat Kumara. And both Murugan and also the Peacock Angel are associated with 6-pointed star. The star on the left is from Lalish, and it's considered to be a symbol of the Peacock Angel. And the one on the right is from Katragama, one of the worldwide seats of Sanat Kumara. And it's the most sacred of all symbols there. And it's only actually brought out one day a year so the public can view it. Now, the customs and beliefs of both the Yezidis and Hindus, they both include the belief in reincarnation and transmigration. Both have a caste system. The image on the left portrays the Hindus' highest caste, the Brahmins, and the one on the right reveals the highest caste of the Yezidis, which is the Sheik caste, which is also their caste of the priests. The mural on one of the temple walls in Lalish is that of a Hindu woman holding a ceremonial lamp with a peacock. This shows that the Yezidis are aware of their connection to the Hindus. And this is what many Hindus also believe. Both Hindus and Yezidis both believe that they were one people in ancient times. I believe that the ancient culture that brought the Yezidis and Hindus together as one people was the ancient Shaivite bull culture that at one time extended all the way from India to Spain. The common features of this culture included the bull, the Pleiades, the trident, the swastika, yoga, wine cultivation and consumption, and the Shiva lingam. As you will see, all of these features of the bull cult are in some way or another interconnected. The bull cult has its earliest origins as far back as 28,000 BCE. The remains of this bull cult can be found on the walls of some of the caves in France. According to Plato, the bull cult also existed on Atlantis approximately 10,000 BCE, when many of its features, including bull sacrifice and the trident, were part of the island's culture. And so, starting from the bull cult, the ancient bull cult in its earliest form, and moving down to Atlantis, and then the age of Leo, and then to the age of Taurus. The age of Taurus, age of the bull, is when the Shaivite culture was most prolific around the world. Within the bull cult, the bulls were regarded as being embodiments of the life force, and they were annually sacrificed in the spring to fertilize the ground. Here you have Mithras in the upper left side of your screen. Mithras cutting the throat of the bull to let loose the life force. You have the Spanish bullfights that are a remnant of those ancient times of sacrificing the bull. Below that is the Anatolia bull cult. Then you have the autumn festival of the Yezidis below that, which they do have a bull sacrifice that occurs during that ceremony. Then you have the white bull of the Druids that was sacrificed every spring. And then you also have the Apis bull of Egypt, which was recognized as being full of the life force. And many of the bulls were associated with being the son of God goddess, whose union creates the sun as the life force. The glyph of the sign Taurus in the lower left represents these bulls. Taurus was the celestial seat of the bull sun in the heavens. And the symbol of Taurus is a circle, above which is a half circle, or you could say that the circle is the sun and the half circle is a crescent moon. So it's the union of the male and female to produce the Taurus bull. And you see right to the right of that is the Apis bull, that his markings include white and black coloring, representing that he was indeed the union of God and goddess. You had Dionysus, the son of God goddess, as the bull god. You have the Minotaur of Greece, who was the horned bull son. And then you have Pashupati of the Indus Valley, who was a horn bull sun, as well as Cernunnos, the Celtic horn god, who is also a sun and green man. Now, the trident of the Shaivite bull cult is also associated with the bull. The three prongs of the trident represent the three powers of the life force that the bull represents. These two powers are the power of creation, preservation, and destruction. Now, the outer prongs of the trident, especially one held by Shiva, denote the horns of a bull that curve outwards. And so their union creates the inner prong. So you can see that how that takes place in the lower right side of your screen. Now, the trident is associated with fire because the very high frequencies of life force, such as Kundalini, are associated with fire. And esoterically, the high frequency life force of Kundalini is referred to as cosmic fire. Now, Neptune is associated with a trident and fire because besides being lord of the sea, he was also lord of the fiery underworld. And this is according to the records of the Native Americans who originally lived on Atlantis. And they say that on Atlantis, Neptune lived as the fire serpent underground, as the creator of volcanoes and earthquakes. So his other name is Poseidon, which means earth shaker. In Egypt, Neptune became Ptah, the lord of fire. And later he manifests as the Roman Vulcan, the smith god that lives within volcanoes. So if you look at the bull on your lower right side of the screen, and you see his two horns, if these two horns represent by the, it's these two horns of the bull that represent the outer prongs of the trident, which unite to become the fiery Kundalini that is denoted by the inner prong. And so this is what you see in Pashupati's image. You notice that the two outer horns are coming together as the center one, which is actually a symbol of fire. You can also see the same thing occurring in the form of Baphomet from Egypt, where the two outer horns come together to create fire. Baphomet is the Lord of Fire. He's his representation of the Kundalini. So the middle horn is associated with the sun, who is thus the embodiment of Kundalini. So Murugan, Sanat Kamara, and also Dionysus have been associated with fire. In fact, one of the names of Murugan is Agni, the Lord of Fire. Their symbols, which is the Vel of Murugan and the Thyrsus of Dionysus, represent the middle prong of the trident. The shaft of the Vel and the top of the Thyrsus, they represent the human spine. And the blade of the Vel and the pine cone on top of the Thyrsus denotes the third eye that the Kundalini rises up and activates. Now, the constellation of Taurus, which has the Pleiades on its back, is said to be the celestial symbol of the bull sun. And so this is why it was so important during the bull cult. Both bull suns, Murugan and Dionysus, were intimately associated with the Pleiades. Now, along the Shalimala River in Karnataka, India, is a pilgrimage place known as the Sahasra Linga, where 1,000 Shiva lingas have been carved out of the rocks along the river there. At one place, there are 7 lingas that represent the 7 stars of the Pleiades, and they unite together as one big linga. So this reveals that the ancient Hindus knew that the Pleiades is indeed a Shiva linga. And if you look at the Pleiades, you'll notice that it does indeed have the form of a Shiva lingam. Now, another thing you find within the Shaivite bull cult is temples that are built in the shape of Shiva lingams. You've got one there to the left top row, and that's a temple in India. Next to that, to the right of that, is a temple built in Göbekli Tepe by the ancestors of the Yezidis. And then you have Glastonbury Tor, you've got Stonehenge underneath that. You've got the Temple of Solomon, who also takes the form of Shiva lingam, and then you have Eridu, the Temple of Enki, to the left of that. And then you also have yoga asanas that were practiced as part of the bull cult. And so you obviously see Shiva Pashupati in a cross-legged yoga position, similar to Shineros of the Celts. And below that is a form that is assumed by an ancient Egyptian that was part of the bull cult. You also find the veneration of the swastika throughout many of the countries that were part of the ancient bull cult. And here you find the largest of the Shiva lingams throughout the whole entire planet, which is Mount Kailash, which is the place which is said that Shiva lives on the summit of Mount Kailash. And on the side of Mount Kailash is the swastika, which is one reason they call it the swastika mountain. So with Mount Kailash, you have both the swastika symbol and the Shiva lingam. And so this was actually one of the most sacred of all pilgrimage places for people during the Shaivite bull cult. And you also have a common language that existed within the Shaivite bull cult. As an example, you take the Persian, Sanskrit, and Kurmanji, which is a language of the Yezidis, and there is many, many similarities in all three of those. Actually, Kurmanji is considered to be a direct relative of Persian. In fact, it's considered to be a branch of ancient Persian, and Sanskrit is intimately connected also with the Persian. So because of all the manifestations over the world, the Peacock angel is indeed the glue that unites us together. And as you have been able to see from this presentation, really and truly, we are all people of the Peacock angel. Now, the man on your screen is Salam Najman Daud Beg, who currently is in Phoenix and is a member of the royal family that governs the Yezidis. He agrees that the Peacock angel is manifested as all these other kings of the world around the planet. And he is so convinced of the connection between the Hindus and the Yezidis that he actually named his grandson a Hindu name. Salam and I are talking about building some temples in the future that will have the Peacock angel along with all his other forms. Thus, he will be there along with the form of Sanat-Kumra, Dionysus, Osiris, Enki, all of them. And the temples will be universal temples that have the potential of uniting us all together. And my hope is that we can do this, and these temples will then be pilgrimage spots for people all over the world. Also, my hope is that in the near future, the people around the world will recognize the court of the king of Sedona as the seat of their legendary kings, and thus also make the court and king in Sedona also a universal holy pilgrimage place. In the meantime, if you'd like to be part of what we're doing or want to study the mysteries of the Peacock angel, Salam and I, back in 2012, we founded the most ancient order of the Peacock Angel, where the legends and wisdom of the Peacock Angel could be taught, along with the teachings of Murugan, Sanat, Kumbara, and Enki, and all his other forms and other cultures. We're doing this so everyone can take part in these ancient rites and wisdom without being born a Yezidi, and we're doing it so that we can bring people together all over the world. Now, the teachings of the Peacock Angel Order, as well as those of Sanat, Kumbara, and Enki, and the other manifestations of the Peacock Angel, they're taught on our online mystery school, the Order and Mystery School of the Seven Rays. We have books and DVDs and courses for those who would like to learn the very ancient teachings of the Peacock Angel. Part of the work I'm currently doing in the Order is offering City of the Star People tour, during which I take people around Sedona and show them the landmarks I've been shown to the remnants of Hopi. So I invite you all to come to Sedona so I can show you around the imperial city of the Peacock Angel and Sanat Kumara and Dionysus and Osiris, all his different forms. So whatever background you come from, coming to Sedona will be coming to the imperial city of your king. And so I hope to see you here, or I hope to hear from you in the future. And our goal in the Order of Seven Rays is to bring together all the people on the planet as they were during the time of the Garden of Eden, all the 72 or 73 tribes. So thank you for being here and being open to watching this video on the people of the Peacock Angel. And if you haven't clicked on the button below, please do that, and as well as the bell. And okay, well, thank you all again for being here, and namaste, bye for now.